And joining me to help give a legal perspective on the story is military defense lawyer Eric Montalvo. So Eric, I don't know if you got a chance to kind of listen to what Anastasia and I were talking about, but I'm sure you've seen the story on American media, on Fox, on CNN. Everyone's calling him the merchant of death, really portraying this guy to be sort of a villain. Do you think it's going to be possible for him to have a fair trial, for them to get some sort of unbiased jury in this case, given all the media attention?
No. I mean, you always start out of the hole when you're being arrested, when you're held out on TV and in shackles and surrounded by all of this, protective force. And then in addition, you have the President of the United States saying that this is our top priority. So it's hard for me to imagine that people haven't already convicted him or assumed that he's guilty.
And you've represented sort of controversial people in the past, I guess you could say, Guantanamo detainees that have been accused of throwing grenades at soldiers or killing NATO troops. If you were Viktor Bout's attorney, how would you even start to kind of build his defense? Is it possible, given all the, political stuff surrounding it and all the media attention?
Well, I think there is a way, and the way is that, the prosecution has set this case up in such a way as they can fall very hard. So there is some indication that factually they may not be able to bear out on some of the charges. And so, I would endeavor to look at that and start building a case to say, well, where are the facts? Where's the evidence? Where's all of this leading to, as we cull through the investigation, as we cull through the evidence that's been collected, does it add up that we've put so much effort and capital into bringing back this individual under certain circumstances and in such a high-profile way?
And when you represent individuals like this, given the fact that, you even said yourself that it's going to be pretty impossible for him to have a fair trial, do you address the negative media attention, or, is it a lost cause?
Well, again, it goes to the facts. And if you truly cannot prove the case, while it may be unfair in the beginning, if you can pull from the facts after that and demonstrate that the government is overzealous or has got it wrong, there is an opportunity to sway the jury back to your side.
And some people are calling this a case of entrapment. Can you tell us a little bit about what exactly entrapment means, and do you think that this is an example of that?
Well, entrapment is essentially this idea that the police force or the investigators lure you into committing a crime that you would not have otherwise committed, had you known that they were police force or criminal investigators. And, this could be construed, I don't know all of the facts and circumstances undergoing the sting operation, but it may bear out that it was an entrapment. They lulled him into a transaction that he was not fully informed of, and they're using that as a guise to then establish his indictment and bring him back over.
And I know that his lawyer in Thailand is considering suing the Thai courts because the Russian embassy and even Viktor Bout's wife wasn't informed of his extradition. Could that have any bearings on what happens here in the United States, or the fact that he was extradited and it's done and over with it's done and there's nothing that the Thai courts can do? Well,
possession is 9/10 of the law to some extent. The other issue is that that's more of a political concern as opposed to a legal concern, because there is an extradition arrangement. He was moved under the guise of that. That's not to say that it was a legitimate move, but it was underneath, the law, the color of the law. Whether or not, Russia was informed of that or not, that's a matter of political diplomacy that the State Department's going to have to address.
And the Thai court said, I believe it was back in August, that he was going to be extradited sometime within the next 3 months. But many people are saying this kind of happened so suddenly. It was surprising to a lot of people. Do you think there was any significance to the fact that, it happened so suddenly and it happened yesterday, or?
Well, my understanding is that he was approaching the point where he would have had to have been released had they not. There were only two choices, either a release and he's free to go, or the extradition. And I believe that once that was identified to the President Obama, he intervened on our behalf, or the United States' behalf, and attempted to, get him extradited, and that's what happened.
And it obviously seems like the defense in this situation is going to have to overcome many hurdles and many obstacles, given all the attention that this has gotten and because of the fact that it's a politically sensitive case. Do you think there's something, flawed in the American justice system that we can have these, so-called fair trials when in reality it's going to be virtually impossible for the trial to be fair?
Well, let's go back, over the past couple of years and look at some of the travesties in justice around the world, including what happened in Italy and, Spain. And, there are a number of cases that the United States is unhappy with. And what we're running into is this dangerous precedent where if we're exercising this type of authority over individuals in other countries, what's going to happen in the future to U.S. citizens, and whether or not other countries are going to demand extradition of our citizens, people who they think are criminals, for example, in the last administration, and demanding their extradition to Spain or Italy or some other country. And how can we, as a straight face in the international community, have it both ways? And
do you think that this case could possibly lead to something like that, for the kind of coin to be flipped?
Well, again, it goes to the facts and the circumstances, and if the Justice Department didn't do their job properly and get this one right, it certainly could open up a can of worms for us in the future.
Well, Mr. Montalvo, we really appreciate you kind of bringing the legal perspective to this story. Thanks so much for your time.
Sure.